Good evening. In the precursor to whatever the weather's going to be, we have some interesting news. Our gallery of wonderful, exciting women that we were going to present. We only have one very, very exciting woman, and that is Mary Custard, who definitely needs to be honored more than she has been. The other is Dr. Barbara Love, who somehow miscalculated and is in an airplane right now, not being able to get on a Zoom. And Jacqueline Wallace sends her deepest regrets with what I could hear from the voice that is almost not there. She tried all day and she called me back at 5:30 and sounded almost worse. So I told her to rest, that we would do something later. But I do have some words for her when we get to the questions. We wanted to choose some people, and we'd like to continue to do that. And the first person that we thought of was Mary Custard. And we thought of that because Mary has been in the system for quite a while, has always been there. Every time you go to an event, you see her. And we feel like many people in the education system, we feel she's undervalued. And so that was our first choice. And then we said, why don't we add two other people at least, and we'll have a really nice forum. Well, now it's going to be a nice forum where people can ask questions and Mary can be comfortable. Yes. Okay. The League of Women Voters created this Judy Brooks series named after, with permission of her family, after someone who was such a pioneer and such a activist, teacher, league person. She was on the select board. She was on, I mean, she did almost everything. When I came here, she took me by my hand, and that's why I am so busy now, and I think I need to get a job and retire again. But she's the one who pushed me into all of these things. And we felt that she would love to have something named after her that hits her heartstrings and the things that she believed in. So we have named it the Judy Brooks series. And it is just trying, as we are part of the League, we are the Racial Justice Committee, which is part of the League, and we try to look at the things that are not right and the things that are right and put them together. And who better from the system than Mary Custard, who's been with the system for a while and has seen so many aspects of it, and she knows a lot of the children. And soon Mary is going to be taking off to go to Africa with a bunch of children. And if any of you've ever been on a field trip, you know that even though it's exciting, it's also an awful lot. So without further ado, I'm going to ask Mary, would you like to just introduce yourself and maybe answer one of the things that we asked the people to briefly tell us about some of the work that you do. So I'm giving the mic to you, Mary.
Well, welcome. Good evening. I'm happy to see so many familiar faces. Thank you, making me feel less nervous since I'm the only person advertised that's here. I do want to start out by saying I really respect Dr. Barbara Love and Jacqueline Wallace for all the work they do. A lot of people don't know this, but when I was in graduate school, I served as a TA in one of Barbara Love's classes. And so she's been a long time teacher and mentor and big sister for me. And so I really miss her tonight. I actually haven't seen her in a while. And I hope when you do future panels like this, that maybe everyone else can be Zoom, but the speakers could be in the same space. I would have enjoyed being in the same room with both Jackie and Barbara. So I have worked at Amherst Regional High School for 27 years and counting. Um, I I began the job there when the renovation was finished and they moved the ninth grade from the middle school, which was then the junior high, into the high school. And at that time, there were over 1,500 students in the building, and I was hired as the only dean. So that was a really challenging time because we were all getting to know each other and there were a lot of people in the building. But it was also kind of an exciting time because we had this new building. As you know, the bones of the high school are pretty old. And now the new building is a bit old too. But it was a really exciting time and an active time for the school. And I did enjoy the work, but it was really challenging because there were so many students. After a few years, I was partnered with other people that came in as deans. And I just want to say their names, Mr. B, Bryant Lewis, who also coached track, a great guy. Our friend Earl, who unfortunately passed away from cancer. And some other colleagues of mine that I'm still in touch with who I really am grateful for the support they gave me, like Nakia Smith. Just really, we worked together, we were a team. And part of the hard part of being the only dean is that I didn't really have a team. And so reaching out to my colleagues and getting their support has been really important, especially coming back from COVID. I was the only dean. And if you worked in any school after COVID, you know that our kids came back really a little out of control. They had been isolated. They had not been able to really learn the way they were used to learning. And some of their social and communication skills had gone downhill. And so really trying to acclimate all of our students back to being in one building and working together and working with their teachers and adults was challenging at times when we returned from COVID. Thankfully, things have calmed down a bit since then. I think we're doing better across the board, but you know, there's a lot of mental health issues that are the result of those years that we were in COVID, and I'm not sure we have all the resources we need to really support both our students and our staff with the mental health concerns that we have. I know the first question is, how do I currently promote social justice and awareness in our community or in the school? And I can't really separate out that item, social justice, advocacy, activism. It's part of how I work. And so just to name some things that are individual that I'm doing is not really answering the question. I would say that for one, I'm not intimidated by those who would wish to intimidate me with their power and privilege. And so that has always been one of my strengths. And I use that strength in many different ways, and mostly in advocating for our children, hopefully in challenging administrators and teachers to really focus on inequities and how they can manage them in ways that make them smaller and really provide our kids with positive relationships with them and with other students. I often speak up and advocate around issues when those who don't have a voice aren't in the room. I feel like it's important that I use my voice for those who are not there, and to let people know there's more than one narrative, and mine is not the only narrative. And so being able to listen to others is important too. I spend my day really supporting students, encouraging students. Though my role is predominantly around discipline and attendance, how I work in my role is probably a little different from how some other people might work in the role. Yes, I do believe that everyone makes mistakes. I don't take it personal when kids make mistakes around disrespect with me. I understand that teenagers are teenagers and that they are going to make mistakes. But also, I think it's been important to have Aaron Buford in the building around restorative justice because we often work together. Restorative justice is not a be-all, end-all, and consequences are not a be-all, end-all. I think there can be a balance between the two of them. And we use that, we team up, we conference with kids together many times. And so right now, especially, I'm really concerned around our budget and losing Aaron because he's, to me, one of the most perfect people in that role in our building.
Just, I don't want to interrupt, but I want you to explain, because there are people who don't know, what is restorative justice? I mean, I know the term, but I'm just saying a lot of people, it's a relatively new, like 5-10 years or less,
Well, I would say we use restorative principles. And so that's really around helping someone recognize any harm or hurt that they've done to others and taking responsibility for that. And also to make repairs around the harm and hurt that they may have caused. And a lot of times that takes a few meetings, not just one meeting. Usually it takes several meetings actually to meet with students both individually and if they agree together. It is voluntary. It is not something that we force on our students. And most kids agree to it because they do own up to mistakes they have made. If you give them the opportunity, they will own up to those mistakes. Helping move them to the point where they're able to recognize the harm or hurt that they've caused takes some time sometimes. But Aaron is very patient and he works with students so very well. And it would just be such a devastating loss if his position is cut at the high school. I do encourage students to speak up and advocate for themselves. I know oftentimes we as adults want to take that load on, but we really need to help support students in finding their voice and building their courage so that they can advocate for themselves when they leave us. And I've watched students blossom as they've moved through really gaining the courage and the self-confidence to advocate for themselves. And so I am an advisor in 3 groups, People of Color United, known as POCU, the Multicultural Student Achievement Network, known as MSAN, and Senegambian Scholars, which is the group that we're going to Africa in 3 weeks, for 3 weeks, on a cultural and educational exchange. And so really watching the students grow and develop through all of the different experiences in those 3 very different groups is really, really great. And really just seeing that happen. And then as we approach graduation, which is one of the most favorite times of the year for me, I'm watching them walk across the stage and knowing some of the history of what they've gone through, how they've grown, really makes it one of the best times of the year. And so I think how my social activism comes out is through my work. It is not separate from my work. It is a part of my work.
Well, I think I was just going to give just a little brief thing of what Jacqueline Wallace sent us, and I apologize again for her, but she is extremely sick and you can barely understand her. That's how really sick she is. But she says, in gratitude, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for spreading honor around like a thick blanket of blessing, comfort, and encouragement. I receive such gifts with great joy. And she says she currently has 3 foci, 2 activities that promote social justice. These are centered around family, work as a therapist, and last but infused throughout is the Amherst Area Gospel Choir. And she said, in my family, everyone has a song when they are born, and it remains throughout their lives. And she said, she's just saying how LGBTQ plus folks in the family are probably the best cooks and ensemble wearers. How God loves everyone, and that strength is wonderful when aligned with embracing all emotions. She said a lot of things, but she's going to be on one of our things, so I don't want to use all of her words. And she was just saying that she's very proud of her choir. When at the MLK breakfast, the proclamations, the ancestral bridges in memory and celebration of life of Horace Clarence Boyer and Mrs. Boyer and other activists like Mrs. Judy Brooks and others. Our songs become familiar and some folks now join in. And she said, working in psychology evidences some of the same issues that occur in every field. And she will probably be ready to talk more about that. If there's some joy in your heart, please follow it. Joy because there is a determination to see the joy in yourself and others protected. There is strength in walking the righteous path. Many who have lost loved ones begin programs to protect or assist others who will lose their loved ones. Community begins with awareness of a joy that needs to be advanced, protected, continued, pursued, and shared. I see this as part of social justice. And she, again, sends her apologies. We've been back and forth most of today. And I told her to please rest, just rest, but she did send that. Would you like to go to, we were asking you can you think of an example of a time when you really felt you were actually making a difference? I'm sure you make it a lot, but can you think of anything in particular that happens with a person or a group or?
Actually, I have a lot of examples actually.
I
Um,
figured that.
uh, so I wrote down some things. Uh, I think now in this stage of my career, it warms my heart when I hear from alums and even some of the biggest knuckleheads that come back and say, I'm sorry, I was such a knucklehead in high school. I know I gave you a hard time. Um, that warms my heart. It really does. And so hearing from alums, sometimes they'll call, sometimes they'll message me, um, sometimes they'll come in the building, and just hearing from them that I made a difference for them is heartwarming. Uh, I think, whenever I post about Pineapple Upside Down Cake Day, that's kind of a staple in the high school now. And so I often get a lot of alums posting, answering, oh, I wish I could have another piece of that pineapple upside down cake. So not so much my work, but my baking. Um, but it still makes me smile because I know that they remember their time in high school, and it's making them smile. Um, Another thing I think um, that I'm really proud of, I kind of the field trip queen in the high school. And so um, while some folks have never taken a field trip in high school, some teachers, I would say, have never organized a field trip. Um, if you're rolling with me, we're going on field trips. So uh, I don't believe that all learning happens in the classroom. I feel like there's so much more to learn out in the world. And so because I'm not in the classroom, I have to do field trips because I have to get our students out there to see what's out there. I think one of the best trips, and Ms. Haygood is on this call, was when we did a service trip to New Orleans right after Katrina. And I really want to, my heart goes
Yes,
out,
yes, yes.
my heart goes out to our community because I asked and they gave, and we had enough money to rent a 15-passenger van. Liz and I drove through the night, got there in 24 hours. We stayed at a community center, and then we went to work, and we helped renovate a house for someone. And we also, did a little touring of New Orleans, and many of our kids had never left the state and had never done that kind of community service. And some of them are still in touch with us, actually all of them, about that trip. Um, and that, I think, was one of the highlights of really understanding what service means and making a difference. Uh, I've also organized trips to DC when the Blacksonian, as we call it, but others call it the National Museum of African American History and Culture. When I knew that was opening, I started preparing. I started raising money. And again, the community answered our call. We took 2 vans of students to DC. We stayed in a hostel. We had enough money to pay for meals. Our administration at the time chipped in also of their own funds. In fact, Principal Mark Jackson and Assistant Principal Mickey Gramacki flew in and toured the museum with us. And, you know, we were one of the first school groups to get into that museum. And it was amazing. And we also did the memorials, the Holocaust Museum. I mean, we made it count the 3 days we were in DC. We got a lot of steps in. And so those kind of trips are really important for students. Through the Multicultural Student Achievement Network, I've been able to take kids all over the country because it is a national network. And many times these kids have never been on a plane. And so giving them experiences and opportunities that they might not ever have as students has been important and really life-changing for a number of students. I hope I've instilled the love of travel and learning in all of them, because it is really important. You know, we've also gone to New York. We love the Apollo Theater and Mr. Apollo, Billy Mitchell, who gives the best tours. You have to go on a Wednesday to get him. The historic Apollo is a highlight for many students who probably will never go there again, but at least they had the experience of going to the Apollo and walking around Harlem. So those are really important experiences, especially for kids of color, to really go into communities where they're not the minority, where they see lots of folks that look like them. It's important. I also have taken advantage of many of the great speakers the 5 colleges offer. And there have been many over the years. And we try to get our students to those speakers, even when they're in the evenings. We try to get them there for that experience, because it might light a fire in them. They've heard some great speakers. They, you know, have been inspired by some of the great speakers they've seen at the different colleges, and hopefully it's helped them to think about their activism and how to grow it. So I think those are some of the things I know have made a difference with our students.
On the question about when you had a challenge in your career, how did you get through it? I'm sure you probably share that with students also, that sometimes there's a roadblock or something in something you're trying to do, and how do you get through things like that? Because that's a lesson also that needs to be taught.
As I referenced earlier, I think being the only dean was sometimes very isolating, where other folks all around the school had departments. I didn't really have a department. I was just kind of on my own. And especially coming back after COVID, I want to give a shout out to Principal Talib Sadiq, because he actually was co-deaning with me while being the principal. He really supported me because he knew it was a lot. There were things happening almost every day, and he really worked hard to support me. And I also want to shout out guidance counselors. I often partner with them in meeting with students. And so I think just being isolated is a hard thing. And being able to reach out and ask for support and help is important, because I wouldn't have made it through without my colleagues, and even colleagues that didn't particularly take part in like discipline or attendance, like, you know, having Liz in the building, and other staff that I know I can go to and talk about things that have been challenging. Like sometimes I do feel like there's a staff person that did something that's pretty racist, or, you know, and really being able to talk that out and share it, and then try to figure out how I'm going to deal with it in a way that's the person could hear me and understand my side of the story. It's important to have colleagues that look like you too in the building, and there's less and less. And one of my major concerns as I really grow to the end of my career is that we don't have a lot of staff of color in the high school at all. Not certified teachers, and it's scary and troubling, especially now with the budget cuts, because with the budget cuts, if we aren't able to fund them, we're going to lose several staff of color, and that's not going to be good for any of our students.
Wow, thank you.
Andrea,
I mute myself because I don't want you to hear me. But if you'd like to say anything else before we open this to questions that people might have, please feel free, and then we'll open it for if people have a question.
I think your fourth question was advice to young women and, of course, to young men if they're on here, who want to develop skills in social justice activism or work. I would say get involved in a group that you're interested in, and if you think you're ready, take on a leadership role, even if it's just to help plan an event, not to be an officer. But if you feel you could be an officer, run for office. Keep working on your confidence, keep working on public speaking, challenge yourself. People that I work with in the school know, I'm a busy bee behind the curtain. I don't really like being right here on screen. I like to do my work behind the curtain, behind the scenes. And so I think that's one reason, Andrea, that you felt like I'm not as recognized as I should be, and it's fine with me. I'm fine with being behind the scenes and propping others up and really supporting others to do the work, because again, as I near the end of my career, I need people to take over. I need people to step up. I need people to take the mantle and keep it moving. And, just continuing the work, not like me, but like they will do it, but to really know that they're there for the students is important. And so, again, the budget cuts will be horrible. And even in bringing in new staff, I don't know how many we can because of the budget. And so what staff of color are going to step in when we lose the ones we have, and in the next few years when I retire, who's going to be there for all of our kids?
I'm gonna open it up, and I think Liz has her hand up for a question. Just unmute and ask or comment or whatever.
So I don't have a question. I just have a comment, and I don't think Mary is being as generous with her portrayal of herself because, again, she is a behind the scenes person. I have known Mary since, I think, January of 1978. And I'm a little biased because she's also my maid of honor. She's the godmother to my oldest son. And we have traveled a lot. We worked at Tri-County Youth programs together before both of us got into the high school. We both graduated together from UMass with our degrees in physical education and health teaching. and she went on to get her master's and almost her PhD in social justice education. She's also a licensed administrator. And I'm so happy that she talked about the things that made her proud when she talked about taking the kids out of the classroom. Because I wrote down a whole bunch of stuff on this little piece of paper that I was going to say, and she named most of them. But you all don't understand the champion, the warrior she is for our kids, all of our kids. And one of the things that makes her successful is that she's not in the school only. You know, she's taking kids to MSAN conferences, like she said, and she's going to Africa. Do you know how difficult it is to keep track of a bunch of teenagers out of the country?
Yes.
So that, even though it's exciting because, oh my God, she's going to the motherland, but it's also a lot of work. And if you go to the play, Mary's there to support the children at the play. If you go to the concert, Mary's there to watch the kids sing or play the instruments. You go to the basketball game, the field hockey game, the lacrosse game, whatever it is, Mary's there. So the kids don't see her in the school only. They see her outside of the school. And when it comes to a conflict with a student, if the student understands that you're there for them and they look up and remember, oh, wait, yeah, right now I'm mad at Miss Custard, but she was at my game last week, right? That goes a long way in fostering that relationship. Therefore, that she can grab them where they are and help them identify some of the strengths and the weaknesses that they may have and help them grow within themselves, right? Not just in the classroom educationally, but worldly. So I wanted to make sure that you all understood who she really is. She did not give herself enough credit, and it's hard to speak about yourself. So that's why I'm doing it for her. You know, we had a need for an athletic director, right? We didn't have one. Mary stepped away from Dean, was athletic director for a year, and then went back to Dean when that was fulfilled. She's willing to step in and step out, and she's not afraid. She's not afraid to challenge the parents. She's not afraid to challenge the students. She's not afraid to challenge us as we were teachers. I retired now, but when we was there, she wasn't afraid to challenge us because it only made us all grow. And we grew individually, and we also grew as a community, which is the high school community. So I just wanted to make sure you knew who exactly you were talking to and who was talking about herself, but not as much as she should have. And I'm done.
Okay. Okay, does anybody have a question or a comment? Okay, Ash, unmute. Oh, that's a yes. Okay. Did I miss anybody? Because we have 2 pages. So did anybody? Okay. Jeff?
Thank you very much, Mary, for your devotion to the kids of Amherst, and perhaps other kids who are part of Amherst being a magnet school and so forth. I'm wondering if you could make a few comments. You mentioned that you were worried about the budget cuts. Could you say, and particularly in relation to Aaron's position, could you say a little bit more about that, please? And the other thing, and I'm not sure that this is appropriate for you to comment on, but if you can, I would be interested to find out more about what has happened at the school this year in regards to the LGBTQI community and all of the things that happened to those kids last year. So if are there programs that have been implemented at the high school, et cetera, et cetera?
So, I don't have much more to say about the budget cuts, except that if we don't find the money, I mean, it's in the town hands now. We went to a meeting the other night with the town council to encourage them to support putting the money back in the budget so that we don't lose the staff that we need at the high school. And so it's up to them to vote on it, find it. I'm not quite sure where it's going to be found. I know the town has reserves that they don't like to touch. And I know that we've spent millions on a library, but not millions on the schools. So hopefully the money can be found somewhere. As far as the kids we have that have come from the middle school, I wasn't at the middle school last year, so I don't know firsthand all of the things that were reported or but and honestly, I don't know all the kids that were allegedly targeted last year because it's not like their names were shared. They might have been shared with some folks, not me necessarily. I know that we've had a lot of professional development in our staff on these issues, and we can continue to have that kind of professional development. But I think what it takes is more community education, because it's not just faculty, it's our students and families that really need the education around all these issues. And so if we don't deal with it as a community, then it's really not going to make that much of a difference, because kids come into the building with what they've learned at home. And then if it's things that are not really appropriate, you know, us trying to work to change what they've already learned is sometimes very difficult. So we need to work on it as a community. It wasn't just a middle school issue. It's not just a middle school issue, and it's not just a high school issue. It's a community issue.
Paula has her hand up. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you. I first and foremost want to just thank Mary Custard for her service, her years of service, and Liz Haygood, aka Skelton, who is also on here. For years, these two, I kind of combined you all together. I apologize, but decades have represented, supported, held accountable the community from which I come from, that tend to be like either overlooked, dehumanized, or not prioritized, aka Black youth, BIPOC youth in Amherst. So I just wanted to step in for a second and thank you both for your service, your continued commitment to making an impact and a difference, because I just have this belief and hope that Amherst can and will be a beacon, an example for the country at large of how we can do it differently, of how we can embrace and uphold the most marginalized of us. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah. So thank you, Mary.
Thank
Miss
you.
Mary. Uh-oh. You said Mary? No. All respect, Miss Mary, even if we're in the same generation. Thank you, Miss Mary, Miss Liz. And thank you for all of you that are here tonight, invested in growing more, learning more, or supporting more around racial equity in Amherst.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And do I have questions anywhere else? Rebecca, just let me know because I can't always look at the
Yep,
whole.
I can let you know. I also want to give a shout out to Roger Wallace, who was also in the schools doing his amazing work. I know one of my daughters had Roger, and thank you so much for coming tonight and for spending your career here in Amherst, making us all better people. And thank you, Mary. Yeah, more questions.
Yeah.
I
And
know you're all
take care of
thinking
that lady of yours.
yeah, make sure she gets better. Any other questions? I'm scanning. Oh, Roger has one, maybe? Except let's,
Unmute yourself, Roger. There you go.
I
There you
just
go.
did. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I could thank a whole lot of people I see on the screen. A whole bunch. I'll thank Jackie for the work she does behind the scene. And yes, I gave her soup and she's laying down now and resting.
Good.
So thank you. But I would like to thank Mary too. She is a hero. She can't help it. And when one says she's behind the scenes in a number of ways. And she'll get this, and I think Liz will get it. Mary knows how to cover a cafeteria table with 1.5 tablecloths so you can save money before a big event. I watched her do it and was amazed. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. I know of some of the things. And one of the biggest compliments ever paid to me by a high school student who was graduating, I said something to them and they said, "Oh man, you sound like Miss Custard." And I just bowed to him. We shook hands and said, and I told him, then I'm really blessed because you had her and I sound like her. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. And the same with Miss Haygood, it's the same thing. If I say something, oh, Miss Haygood done told me that already. Yeah, I'll go ahead and do it. And you see them everywhere. And one of the things that's important, and Liz hinted at it so clearly, that Mary is everywhere. So kids look around the corner. Kids are at games and they get ready to act up and Miss Custard's here. And she doesn't even have to say anything. And that's the beauty. She sets a level of expectations for kids and they know it's real. And that's the best thing of all. So thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Just
come on, what happened? Amherst,
okay.
we're
Well,
only the H?
I was going to ask, have they hired someone to be the junior high school principal yet? Or is that going to be for next year?
It's happening. I don't think they've named who is. I think I only saw the superintendent candidates meetings. I didn't see, but I'm not at the middle school, so I'm kind of watching it, but I'm not focused on that. So I don't think they've decided who's going to be the middle school principal yet.
Okay. Martha Hanner has her hand up.
Okay, Martha, unmute.
And also Miss Patanoni Baku after Martha has her hand up.
Great.
Oh, okay, good, thank you.
Well, thank you very much. As someone who never had a child in the school here, we didn't move till we retired. I really appreciate learning more and thank you so very much. But my question is then, could you tell us a little more about the upcoming trip to Africa? I mean, I'm just so impressed, to take a group of enthusiastic teenagers and try to corral them onto a plane and then take them through this experience. So.
Well, I'm going to start by giving a shout out to the founders of the exchange program to the Gambia and Senegal. That is Mamadou Sarr and Umi Cisse and Bruce Penniman. Bruce and Momodou are both retired teachers, and Umi is still teaching French at the high school. But we used to have several European exchange programs, and so they put their heads together, like, how come we're not going to Africa? And Mamadou is from the Gambia, and Umi is from Senegal. And so they chose those two countries, which are next to each other anyway, to start the program. And it's about a decade old now. And honestly, once Umi stepped back out of it, they have been trying to recruit me for a while to step in, but I just was doing all these other things. But finally, a couple years ago, I said, okay, I'm gonna do it. And so I've joined them, and I went on the last trip. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about that trip. We go 3 weeks, so a week and a half in the Gambia, in a village, which is pretty much a rural kind of a village, and with dirt roads and animals kind of all over the place. No street signs, no numbers. There are family compounds, which are intergenerational, from infants to great grandparents live in these compounds together and take care of each other. And I know our last group of kids, we had to cancel 3 times, so it dwindled down to only 6 kids, but they had the times of their life. They loved the village, and everyone there is in a different kind of living situation. Some homes have running water, some don't. Some have toilets, some have outhouses. So depending on who's your host, that's the living situation you're going to be in. They're matched up with high school students, mostly, hopefully, in their grades. And there's a new high school in the village we're going to this year, so we don't really know those students yet. We've been sort of meeting through WhatsApp. And so they're matched up, they've been communicating. I am actually staying with a family that I stayed with last time, and I love them dearly. It's a single mom that has adopted. Her sister has a couple kids and has, I think, a kid from the village that didn't have parents. And so it's a house full of women, and I love being with them. They're just really so sweet. And we go on field trips like every day. We're out of the house for like 12 hours a day. We're on the move all day long. And one of the places we go is Kunta Kinte Island, which is where the ancestors of Kunta Kinte are from. And some of the descendants still live in that area. And we go to other cultural sites around the Gambia, and we will do the same in Senegal, in Dakar. And what's really interesting to watch is our students with their host families. They are really welcomed as a part of the family, and when we leave, there's tears everywhere. They stay in touch. Our last group of kids have stayed in touch with their hosts, and it's just really amazing to watch the international friendships that they're building, and the connections and the learning that they're having. Like, you know, coming from a very privileged place and going to a village, some people might say that the people in that village are poor, but living with them, they're not poor. They are rich beyond anything we can imagine, because they love each other, they take care of each other, they love their culture. If you start playing a drum, the littlest child, 2, 3 years old, just starts dancing. And it's just the cutest thing to watch how much they love their culture and love each other and love us when we get there. So it's really, I'm glad I finally joined in as an advisor. Again, I put out a call to our community. I have bags of school supplies that we're taking because the school in the village is brand new. And so they don't have a lot of supplies. So we have probably 100 books now. I have 3 bags of school supplies and I'm still buying stuff. And I really can't thank our community enough for the generosity they show when I ask for support for whatever program I'm working with or doing, because the community always supports our students, and now supporting the students in the Gambia who don't really have the resources to, have a lot of school supplies. In many parts of Africa, they pay tuition. They don't have public schools, so they pay to go to school. They pay for their uniforms, and they don't have a lot of money. And so the supplies that we're bringing, they are going to be so excited to have. And we raise all the money. It's not school supported. So again, the community really helps us do this exchange program. We raise the money, and that's why it's every 2 years. So it gives us enough time to just keep raising money so that we can take students. And I do want to shout out the Wallace's daughter, Adrian, and 80 Acres, because she reached out to me and she said, I want to support a student who might not ever be able to take part in that trip unless they had the financial support. And this year I was able to choose a student that they could support, and they have fully funded her to participate in this trip.
Wow. That's
and it's amazing. It's amazing because honestly, she would never be able to go. And it's fully funded. And thank you, Adrian Wallace and 80 Acres. I'm just so thrilled about her going.
Yeah.
I think Miss Pat had a question.
Yeah.
But I can't see. I
Hi,
can't see that.
She is.
hi. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
So I don't have any question. However, I want to add to what everyone has said about Mary. Thank you, Mary. You know how I feel about you. My 2 daughters are direct beneficiary of what you did for them, self-confidence. They became really leaders in their own way. Thank you also to Elizabeth, the Wallaces, Hala, all the Black, folks on this Zoom, and folks who are not here, Dr. Barbara Love. I think that's what makes Amherst, a community. But you don't hear, what you all do to, keep this community going. So thank you to the League for organizing this. To my sister, Andrea Barrow, you're doing a great job, moderating this event. So in my culture, somebody like Mary in Igbo tribe, where I come from, she will be seen as a community mother. And when I say community mother, it has nothing to do with age at all. It's a status symbol, actually. Hala will be a community mother. Mrs. Wallace will be a community mother. Elizabeth, and I can't see very well. Dr. Tatakov, my sister Andrea, I see Whitney. And if I don't mention your name, please forgive me, but the same thing with community dad. And so if there's nothing else you can take from tonight, it's okay for people to call you mom, because it's a show of respect. I know America is an ageless culture, but it's okay because it means something for different culture. And I'm telling you, when people call you a community mom, it's a status. Grab it, take it. That's all. Thank you all.
Yeah. And you know, really, because I know that how difficult it is to, not difficult, but it is complicated because you have children in your hands and they're not unsafe at all, but that's a major thing for that long a period of time. You know, I spent 6 weeks this summer volunteering in Ghana, and you know, people were asking me on WhatsApp, you don't have hot water? And I was like, no, you want to send me some? I mean, you know, what am I supposed to do? I just wash myself in cold water. Again, the people just, you know, and I had a birthday there and they're like, you're having a birthday away from, I said, yeah, in a place where people respect age. And I had 3 parties in one day. So, you know, again, you're taking them and exposing them to something so beautiful. And you know, the African, and there are a lot of cultures that where people respect family and children and really want them to achieve, and it changes your life. It does change your life. I went to Ghana in 1969 and I haven't been back since. It took me 54 years, but I remember almost everything of the month I spent there. It's not something, and I was just out of out of college, and I remember it very well because it makes a difference. And, you know, and I said, it's not easy, but it's not hard either because the people treat you like your family. And that is really a very important thing, you know. That's what I'm saying. You talk down to what you do, but I know what you do because I see you all the time because I'm picking up people out of a game and you're coming out of that game and I'm going something else. You know, and I see you there and I see you and I see Liz is retired, but she's still there too. And Heather, all of you, you know, you just, the way you do it, Miss Pat is right. You know, it's just a joy. It's a joy to know. And why we don't honor our schools more, because I'm sorry, you hurt the community when you hurt the school. Not to say you overtax people, but let's start shifting some funding from other things that may not be as important and give it to the schools. And I think restorative justice, that's why I wanted you to say something, because that's a very important, that's a lesson that once you have had a disagreement with someone, then you learn that you hurt somebody and what hurting somebody, it changes your life. It really does. Most of those people, you know, grow up to be better adults because they know that they can hurt someone or by just saying something. And those are part of the lessons that you're supposed to learn when you're in school. So, you know, does anybody
Andre, we have another hand
Oh,
up.
okay.
Whitney.
Oh yeah, I know you.
You know her.
Yeah. Okay, sorry. Oh goodness, my hair. I just wanted to chime in as someone who had Mary as a friend for a long time, and now, you know, seeing her as dean with 2 children in high school and 1 in the middle school. I just want to thank, you know, Mary and Liz and the Wallaces and Miss Pat and all the folks that have, you know, spoken before, because I think that in a moment where, I don't know, the roof of the middle school is in some need of repair. I don't understand necessarily, I'm not in Amherst at the moment, but my children are, and I work in Amherst. And so I'm confused about budgets, right? And where the money's going as I see all these, and I don't know if I'm speaking out of turn in terms of politics, because I don't really want to get into that, but I feel like in many ways, we don't celebrate, we talk about community, but it's clear that there are different communities that understand the value of some of the folks that are in our schools with all of our children, and all children benefit from having exposure to folks that are different. speak different languages, understand culture a little bit differently. And I don't know what I would do having to navigate the craziness of having just about 3 teenagers under one roof without a solid staff at the high school, you know, like being there as a support away from when we don't see our children, which is most of the day, right? And to be honest, I don't know. Liz claims she retired. I don't. I know she technically has, but the fact that I have a track runner, I see Liz more now than I think I saw. I'm just trying to call you out, Liz. I know you retired technically, but I feel like you're working a lot.
It's okay. I'll be at the middle school next week, by the way. I'm working at the middle school next week. So never mind, bye.
I don't know what it is about teachers and retiring. And Hala as well. Just thank you all for being here. And thank you, League of Women Voters, for acknowledging women and men who seem to be not the front and center. Like, why can't we give these amazing teachers their flowers while they can still enjoy them? And I feel like
Yes.
we need to acknowledge on many levels
Yes.
the kinds of sacrifices and value they bring to all of our children, but especially our BIPOC children. And I want to mention, we talk about LGBTQ, but a lot of times when we talk about LGBTQ folks, we often separate BIPOC and LGBTQ folks. And that makes me a little bit uncomfortable, because often the ones that speak up don't look like me. The ones that look like me are the ones that get harassed and all kinds of stuff in ways that they are not comfortable with verbalizing, right? Because in some ways, to verbalize and to say something is wrong, actually, ironically, Amherst folks, it is coming from a position of privilege. And everyone doesn't have the privilege to speak up and speak out against bullying. So I just wanted to kind of bring that up and say that thank you for having this. And I think that I need to stop. Okay.
Thank you.
Yes.
Other questions? David?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Hello, Mary.
Hi.
First of all, I want to say thanks to you for participating tonight. And also from our family, we would say thanks very much for the leadership and support that you provided for our son, Marcus, when he was at Amherst High School, and trying to help him keep his head on his shoulder because he was the star football player. We thank you for that. I also want to thank you for, and also share with others, Mary Custard's role in working with ABC. I'm on the board at ABC, and we bring the young men into this city, into Amherst every year, and we, the ABC board, work very closely with Mary Custard and the principal, and we have been very successful with the young men who come into ABC graduating from Amherst High School. And then Mary has been the lead person for working with me for 10 years as chair of the scholarship committee for Sigma Beta Boule. And Sigma Beta Boule offers several $4,000 scholarship to African American males coming out of the schools in Western Massachusetts. Amherst High School has been right there at the top with a scholar just about every year. And a scholar who complete 4 years of college and move on to their career. Mary, thanks from the Williams household. Thanks for Beta Sigma Boule. And if Marcus was here, he would say thanks also. So thank you.
I love this because I think Mary was a little nervous at the start and it's turned into a love fest. So I thank you so much.
But you need to, like you said, feel those flowers now because you do a lot. And the reason I knew from the beginning, every time I came certain places, she was always there. Anything involving the children or whatever, she was there. And yeah, I remember that, those are the things, if you're a real teacher and you really care about children, that's what happens. You go to their games, you go to this, and that's how they trust you, because they know you care, and you're one of those people. You just don't get the recognition I think you should get, because just because you're behind the scenes doesn't mean we don't see you. We know you're there. Those of us who have grandchildren and friends, and when I was with Youth Action Coalition, we all knew you. And all the kids would talk about you in a good way. They really were, even kids that whatever, they knew that they did something, but you were forgiving, and those are the kind of words that used to come back to me when we had Youth Action Coalition a number of years ago. They would say, oh no, Miss Custard, oh no, she doesn't mess around, but she will forgive you, but you better keep it right. So these are very important things for people to hear. And I'm going to encourage people to talk to the town council and ask them to really look into this, especially the restorative justice thing. And we can't be cutting teachers out if we want the school district to maintain its reputation and be able to help all of our children, so definitely let's promote this very much. Are there any other questions? Because we're gonna
I'm not seeing any. Oh,
Carly.
Carly has her hand
Carly
up.
Carly.
Dr.
Yeah.
Carter.
I can never find
The little button.
my hand. Anyway, I'm not gonna say much, but I know that most of the people have concentrated on Mary's works in the schools and with children. But I want to say that Mary is a community connector. And it's not only the children and the students in her school, but also in the wider community. She has connected us to opportunities that we probably wouldn't have had the experience of if Mary hadn't organized. And I must say, she also documents the times. Yeah, and I didn't want that to get completely lost. Mary, thank you.
Thank you, Carly.
And thank you to all the other people. I see so many people here
I
who do
know.
so much.
Good to see.
Really? I mean, it's wonderful.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Andrea.
These are all the wonderful people in Amherst.
Yeah. Thank you for
and surrounding. Yes.
Organizing this. It's beautiful.
Andrea, I'm supposed to remind you about the survey.
Right. Before when you leave, there'll be a little survey. It takes about 2 minutes or less to fill out. It's important that we send to the state league and they send it to the national, that we had people. And this is one of the well-attended ones. And we really would appreciate it if you would just fill out. It's just a few questions, and it takes like I said, 2 minutes or less. But we'd appreciate it very much. And thank you all, everyone. And please be on the lookout, because we are definitely talking to Barbara Love as well as Jacqueline, who is going to get better soon. So we can have some more people and talk about some of the things that are going on in our community. Thank you, Mary. every day. I thank you for all you do and all you've done and all you're going to do. And we wish you all the best when you get to Africa. We hope that you have a wonderful experience. I know the children will never forget it. And it's always nice. I just heard from one of my students talking about you had such a, oh, I got approved by the White House. I'm going to be a judge. And I was like, oh my God, you were 17 the last time I saw you, But, it's a good feeling because you do those things. And I recognized it right away when I got here. And you and Liz and so many of the teachers at Amherst are such, good people. And we appreciate it. My
Thank you.
grandchildren appreciate you. They may not always act like it, but they do. So anyway, thank you. Don't forget.
Thank you, Mary.
Okay,
Thank
don't
you,
forget to take the
Mary.
survey, and thank
Thank
you,
you.
Mary. We love you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
Good
you.
night, everyone.